Okay, whoops. This is my Connect Teacher video take 3. I had a great video going, and about halfway into it, I had a phone call I had to answer. So here we go again. Matthew 16, 13 through 26. I'm calling this the ultimate question. And for a little illustration, you might want to use this. I thought of essay questions, how in school we hated essay questions at the end of a test because you could guess on the true or false, or kind of recognize the answer easily, or multiple choice. But essay questions, you really had to know your stuff, and they usually were worth a lot more points too. So when I gave tests, I might have my essay question be worth 20 points. And amazingly, I'd have kids who wouldn't do it. They just never would. I'd tell them ahead of time, this is going to be an essay question. You need to be prepared for it. And they don't feel like studying, so they would just start off their test with an 80. And it usually went down from there. Anyways, but the stakes are a lot higher with Jesus's question because the answer determines your eternal destiny. And so as he asked the disciples these questions, we first need to understand that this isn't early in his ministry. This is approximately 2.5 years into his 3-year ministry. So think of all the miracles that people have seen. Think of all the miracles the disciples have witnessed and all the teaching. And yet the people still don't see him as the coming promised Messiah. Why is that? Well, you need to really bring this up in your lesson that, again, they expected the Messiah to come and deliver them from all their enemies, from Roman oppression, come in glory, come as a great king setting up his kingdom. They did not see two comings. So everything they expected to happen is what we know from Scripture now is going to happen in the second coming. That Jesus is going to come as King of Kings, and he's going to defeat the enemies. He's going to set up his kingdom and all of that. In verse 13, who do the people say that the Son of Man is? So emphasize that the people Jesus is referring to are not the religious leaders and scribes and Pharisees, etc. It's just the regular people. The Pharisees and scribes would not have given such a respectful, though inaccurate, answer, because how did they view Jesus? They viewed him as a blasphemer. They viewed him as being empowered by Satan. But the people respect him at large at this point. They're amazed at him. They recognize that he's got power from God. But because they can't take that leap to seeing him as the Messiah, they assume he's a forerunner. Maybe a resurrected John the Baptist or a resurrected Elijah. They knew from Malachi 4, 5, and 6 that Elijah would come before the great and awesome day of the Lord. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the great and awesome day of the Lord comes, and he'll turn the hearts of fathers to their children and the hearts of children to their fathers. John the Baptist is said to have come in the spirit and power of Elijah. So both of these men are forerunners of the comings of Christ. And in Luke 9:19, which is Luke's account of this passage of Scripture, we see that Luke 9:19, and they answered I already read that. I'll get another phone call, which is messing up my brain. And they answered, John the Baptist, but others say Elijah, and others that one of the prophets of old has risen. So they did see kind of a resurrection possibility here. Notice that he refers to himself as the Son of Man. Why does he do that? Well, this is actually a favorite term in the New Testament for Jesus. It's used over 80 times. And it stresses his humanity, but it also would be recognized by any Jew that knows their Old Testament as a term of deity, as a term for the coming of Messiah. So Daniel 7, 13 and 14, I saw in the night visions, and behold, with the clouds of heaven there came one like a son of man, and he came to the Ancient of Days and was presented before him. And to him was given dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom one that shall not be destroyed. So notice in that passage of the coming of the one who's going to bring about the kingdom, he's described as one like the Son of Man. Peter, of course, answers accurately. He's the Son of the living God. The Son of Man is the Son of God. And we need to understand this term, Son of God, and the term Son of Man. The idea of son of does not mean he's less than God. It means just the opposite. John 5:18. This was why the Jews were seeking all the more to kill him, because not only was he breaking the Sabbath, but he was even calling God his own Father, making himself equal with God. Please stress that verse. That's such a great verse, such an important verse for the deity of Christ, because Jehovah's Witnesses and others will make a big deal about Jesus being the Son of God, as if that clearly indicates that he's not equal to the Father. But it's exactly what it did indicate to the Jews. And of course, that's where the context is. Then, of course, Peter's statement, or Jesus' response to Peter's statement, that upon this rock thou art Peter, and the word is Petra, means small rock. Thou art Peter, the small rock, and upon this Petros, the large, massive cliff rock, I will build my church. So no, the Catholic Church is wrong. This is not a statement that Jesus is going to build his church on Peter, and that indicates that he's the first pope. No, he's going to build his church on the reality of his deity and the truth of his deity, that he is God. And then Jesus says the gates of hell will not prevail over the church. Here's a great historical context. Jesus is in Caesarea Philippi. When he says this, there are many temples, and one of them was for the worship of Caesar Augustus, and right next to that temple was a cave. And that cave had such a deep abyss in it that it was described as the gate of hell, because they couldn't see down it. They literally sometimes thought this could be the gate of that leads to hell. Now, how does Jesus' statement that the gates of hell will not prevail over the church, how does that compare to the attitude I often see reflected not only by people, but even in books written by Christian writers about how, the church is dying, the church is ineffective, we've got to do other things, young adults are leaving the church. So that could be a good discussion question. Does the church need to be replaced? Does it need to be reinvented? I'm not saying that we don't need to change things sometimes that are not doing anything to the gospel message, but there's this just negativity about the church, and yet Jesus says the church is going to exist. The church is going to be effective. The church is going to be able to defeat Satan, and I think we need to keep our faith in God's plan, God's program. How are we to understand verse 19, this idea of the key of heaven? I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Okay, so he's now speaking to Peter and really speaking to all the disciples. Peter's always the representative of them. But what does this mean? Of course, the Catholic Church says, this is like Peter has the ability, he's the Pope, and they use this for their priests as well, that they have the authority to forgive sins. They have authority to basically do that which is necessary for you to go to heaven. But that's not at all what is being said here. Simply what Peter, the apostles, what we do is we proclaim the gospel. And by proclaiming the gospel, that is the key to allowing people to go to heaven, or keeps them out of heaven if they reject the gospel. That's simply what is being said here. One last thing, verses 21 through 23 demonstrates how fickle our faith can be. Peter goes from proclaiming Jesus' deity to becoming the mouthpiece for Satan's agenda as he rebels. He resists this idea that Jesus would go to the cross. Well, Satan would love nothing greater than that Jesus wouldn't go to the cross. And so Jesus first says, blessed to Peter, as he says, you are the Christ. He says, blessed Are you Peter? For, God has revealed this to you. And now he's saying, get behind me, Satan. How quickly we can go from being extremely obedient and godly to just the opposite. So let's utilize that as an application to our people for how important it is to daily stay in prayer, to daily stay in confession of sin, to daily stay in the Word, etc. Well, I hope despite my little goffs here, you've gotten something out of this video, and we will see you on Sunday.